1. Welcome to Made for More Living.
One small step for man.
With Johnny Jennings.
Kick the tires and light the fires, Big Daddy.
The fastest and most exciting hour of news, events, and real estate in Northern California.
And this is a fact that was proved.
Powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
Does everybody know what time it is?
Get ready. Here we go.
Well, today we have a very special guest, somebody that we have been waiting to get into the studio for months and months and months and months, and he did not even know it. But, yeah, so his name is John Jennings, and it's not to be confused with me. I'm John Jennings III. We have John Jennings II on the show. Hey, Pops.
Hey. I love How you doing, son?
I do love that you totally spraying this on him, because he came in and I was like, aren't you going to be part of the show? He's like, what? No, I did.
I know.
I did.
So I was like, hey, Pops, you want to go to the radio station with me and watch the show? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, ha, ha, ha.
I got you.
You're going to be on the show now. So anyways, the reason why we have you on the show is just to let people kind of get to know me a little bit better, and who's more impartial than your father, the guy that you share a name with. So when you think Valerie and Johnny, or you think our real estate business and just what we've been working towards, because you were there when we started it in Kalinga, got licensed in 2015, and I was still working in the oil fields, and I just remember you being around a lot then, because we were living in the same town where I was born and raised, and where you taught for almost 40 years. Almost.
Whatever.
Quitter. It's like 39 and some change, right, Pops?
Right.
But,
I like he's whispering. He's like,
I know. He's like just rolling his eyes. But when you think about Valerie and I and our real estate business, and you just see the volume of people that we interact with and all that, like, what runs across your mind? Like, what is something that you would want people to know when you watch the social media posts and all that? Like, when you're looking at that, what is something you would want people to know about us that maybe isn't communicated, or that you just observed from behind the scenes?
Wow. The first thing that pops into my head is that Valerie and Johnny are the consummate team. You are constantly just talking to each other, figuring things out. You do not do anything in a vacuum. It's the two of you. It's always been the two of you.
Yeah, since day one.
And when you were first starting out, little story here, they would do videos, make videos in car washes.
Oh, I forgot about those. Car wash karaoke.
And it was, one of my favorite is Flat Fees. And they were doing this, Johnny got on silly wigs, and Valerie was doing her silliness as well. And there, the soap's coming down the side, and they're singing Flat Fees.
It was a parody off of Let It Be.
Yeah. And so it was that short story tells you a lot about them. They always are working as a team, but they are also having fun while they're doing it. Many of the younger people out there don't even know who Abbott and Costello is, but these guys, they are a team. They've always been a team, and that's what you want. I mean, if I was going to want somebody to sell my home, I would want somebody who is not a solo, and Valerie and Johnny are definitely not solo.
Nope, that woman's my ride or die. Been married. Oh boy, pop quiz. Did it to myself. Been married since March of 2013. Yeah, so over 10 years, and yeah.
So, but the real question everyone wants to know is, where can we see these videos that he's talking about?
They're on YouTube.
They're on YouTube.
If you go back in the history, you go to old videos, you'll see some gems. There, we had a smooth fox terrier for a long time, and his name was Waylon. I wanted to name a kid Waylon, because his name would be Waylon Jennings, which is a famous country singer. For those of you who don't know, and Valerie would not have any of it. And so I was like, all right, well, then we're going to name the dog Waylon. And so we had this dog named Waylon, and we would do a lot of Valerie and Waylon would do stuff together on a YouTube. And so it would be like Waylon, and he had a British accent. I don't know why, because the breed is British.
Okay.
So Waylon had a horrible British accent, and I would voice over it was like Wishbone, but British. And it was, anyways. So, a lot of funny videos on YouTube if you want to check it out. So you can just go to, I think it's Made for More Living. Just YouTube Made for More Living and look for the old videos, and you'll see.
Just beware, you're going to spend all afternoon watching these old karaoke videos.
They are definitely watchable.
Yeah, you may not want to work with us afterwards, but you'd be like, this is ridiculous. But yeah, so thanks for sharing that, Pops. Like that's something that at least I always wanted growing up, was I wanted to do life with somebody. I didn't want to get married and then have that person have their own life and me have my own life and then have some kids along the way. But I always wanted to do life together with somebody. And so luckily Valerie's been open to that and has been along for the journey. And so, which kind of reminds me, we recently saw a screening of Reagan.
Yes.
Did we not? Yeah. And so, I mean, obviously Valerie's no Nancy and I'm no Ronald Reagan, but just the connection that was portrayed on the screen and the connection that they supposedly had in real life, like it's so hard to do life by yourself. And so, it's nice to have that person in personal life and in business.
Well, that's what reminded me of your relationship after watching that screening of Reagan.
Oh, really?
You two are like Ronald and Nancy. They, in their lives, he relied on her to guide him, direct him, help him think through matters large and small.
Yeah.
And both you and Valerie do that. And if you have a question, immediately, I've seen it dozens of times, sitting on the couch. You'll have a question, hey, Valerie, what's this? And immediately she'll come up and then she'll have something. How do we do this, Johnny? And you go, well, why don't we do it this way? And it's a constant melding of minds. It's like there are two minds with the stated purpose of going forward in life together.
Yeah. Something else that I noticed in the movie was, how did it? Nancy. So in the movie, he's talking about how he's going to potentially rerun for president, and she said something along the lines of, I've had to share you like
my entire life.
Yeah. And so that is definitely something that Valerie's had to do. So.
Yeah. And I constantly tell her, God bless you, Valerie.
You do. She's incredible. But yeah, she's had to share me. And so, so it just takes a village. That's why we now have a team. It's not just Valerie and I. We have a staff of almost 15, and then we have the 30 agents that we support and coach, so that way we can help more people. Because, Grant Cardone talks about, for those of you who don't know, Grant Cardone is a real estate investor, sales trainer, something like that. And him and his wife also do life together. And what he talks about is when you're growing up, you can only really focus on yourself. You can only help yourself. And then as your influence expands, maybe you rope a spouse into it. And now you can influence them and she can influence you. And then as your influence expands, you're able to help more people.
Right.
But at the core of it, you have to be able to help yourself before you can help anybody else, and then layer growth on top of that. And so that is what Valerie and I are striving towards, is building out our influence so that way we can have a positive impact on more people, whether it's business, whether it's family, whether it's, like giving to charitable causes. So anyways, that's that. Thanks for sharing that, Pops. That was really, really cool to hear. And so when we come back, Pops will be answering the question about how we got started doing a little tradition that has to do with smoking.
Mike, I want to tell you about Mark and Cindy. They inherited a property in the foothills, and they decided to sell it, but it was a very unique property, and it required an experienced agent. They didn't know what it was worth. They thought, oh my gosh, it's going to take forever to sell because it's so unique. It has weird characteristics to it, but guess what? They heard about Johnny Jennings, and the Made for More Living team decided to give him a call. Johnny was able to sell their home for 50% more than Mark and Cindy expected to sell it, way exceeding their expectations.
See, that's what happens when you try to use those online things. They're just not good at it because Johnny Jennings and the Tom Daves real estate team, they do this all the time. And if you're curious what kind of offers you can get on your home, the high end, the low end, or maybe you just want a cash offer so you can just show me the money and be done, they can take care of you there as well. Just go to tomdaves.com or you can just Google Tom Daves Made for More, and that will connect you with Johnny Jennings and the Tom Daves real estate team. And remember, you get more with Made for More. License number 581-837.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
So if anybody spent any length of time around me, they know I like to do this. I have this little habit. I don't do it as much as I used to, but I don't know, Pops, but do you remember it's you that got me started with this?
Oh yeah, I'm the one to blame. Yes.
So what we're talking about is how I got started smoking cigars, and
very special moment.
But growing up, you and Mom were super anti smoking
cigarettes
specifically.
When you were growing up, I smoked a pipe.
Occasionally, I do remember the pipe. I remember my brother Paul picking up cigarette stubs at in the parking lot in the grocery store and putting them in his mouth. He thought they looked cool or whatever. And you're like, what the heck are you doing? And so anyway, smoking was super taboo. At least that's the way I perceived it. Mm-hmm. And then, what year was it, Pops? It must have been 2013, 2014, somewhere around there. We had just moved back to Kalinga from Bakersfield, and you came over. It must have been 2014. I'm going to say 2014. And you gave me this little box, and in the box were a bunch of cigars. It was a little travel humidor, like a little desktop type humidor. I thought, man, this is the most random gift coming from somebody who said never smoke, and now you're giving me cigars. I'm like, I don't even smoke. I have no desire. I've never done that. Actually, that's not true.
No, it's not.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It just clicked.
It just clicked. Yes. Whose idea? So the first time.
It was mine.
It was your idea. Okay. So the first time I ever remember smoking a cigar, I had just finished this program.
At Hume Lake.
At
Joshua Tree.
Who does not condone cigar smoking, just for the record. But my roommate and I, we'd finish. So it's this, for those of you who don't know what it is, Hume Lake is a Christian camp, and they have this program called Joshua, where it's kind of like a gap year study program, where you learn like life skills, you get to do some travel, you learn more about the Bible, things like that.
Oh, don't just forget, they learn a lot more than the Bible. They had to memorize all of Philippians.
Yeah, you had to memorize the book of Philippians.
Do you still have that memorized?
Oh, no. No, definitely not. And but during this program, there's a lot of different like rules that they kind of like. It's like to kind of build. What's the word I'm looking for? Fortitude, like discipline.
Integrity and discipline.
So some of the rules were, at least when I was going through, you could not listen to music. You were not allowed to listen to music. If music was playing around you, that was fine, but you could not like request a song or anything.
Oh, I would not survive.
No music, no social media, no television, no movies. So basically like a media fast. And then so there's all these things, and you couldn't date. You couldn't be what was called even. So even would be one guy and one girl having a conversation, or two guys and two girls having a conversation. You couldn't do that. I think once you got to 3 and 3, it was like, okay, the group's big enough. Like that's okay. That's safe. Okay. And so anyways, after this long period of like no media, no television, no dating, no nothing, I was like, what's something I can immediately do that will make me feel like, hey, I've broken this fast, so to speak. And Pops, I guess you came up with the idea of smoking a cigar.
And we're coming down the hill, and first time you had it, it was so funny because now you're an aficionado. But the first time, you're trying, how do I hold this? Which end do I light? Know?
Yep, the typical question. Yeah.
Did you guys stop and get some kind of like fancy cigar, or was it like just the gas station cigar?
No, I picked up a couple of cigars. They weren't Cubans or anything, but they weren't, Roy Tans either. So,
but yeah, and so then I was 18. Yes. And then fast forward, I was probably about 24, somewhere around there. I get these cigars, and I'm like, I'm not going to smoke these, and I just set them up on my my dresser because I don't like throwing things away either. But I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with these. I'll figure it out later. And then about 6 months later, you give me more cigars, Pops. You're like, here, in case you're running low, here's more. And I'm like, I haven't smoked the ones you gave me originally. So now we got a problem because now the box won't close.
Okay,
right?
but his problem was solved when Johnny, and this will tell you a lot about him as a person and as a real estate advisor, is he decided to keep a little book, a little book, and record his tastings of cigars. And I didn't realize how many different kinds of cigars there were.
Yeah, neither did I.
And he ended up with hundreds of examples in his little book. It got to the point where there were not many cigars left on the planet that he has not tried at least once. And it was amazing. And when you think about that, that's exactly how you do everything.
Yeah,
you are very methodical,
yeah.
Thoughtful. You take notes, and you make sure that you learn whatever you're doing.
Yep. And so after that first cigar, I was like, this is dumb. But my humidor still won't close. Second cigar, I don't get this. Churchill seemed really cool, but I don't understand this, And then after the third cigar, I was like, oh, this one's good. This one makes sense. And then it was off to the races. But now that's something that that we share. Because actually, I was smoking cigars for a while, and then you weren't even smoking cigars.
I was doing the pipe more.
Yeah, and so now it's something that we share where, when you come around, try to have a cigar or go to one of the local lounges and just spend some time talking. It's probably, honestly, one of my favorite things in life right now is just taking the time. Like, I've met so many incredible people. I've developed so many wonderful relationships from cigar smoking, from just sitting down in lounges and meeting new people.
That's because you're focused. There's no social media. There's no music. You're going back to Hume, and you're focusing.
I don't know if Hume would agree with that. But.
You're focusing on the individual right in front of you, and that is so rare in today's society.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it really is an opportunity to sit down and just have a conversation with somebody.
And focus on each other.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what was the difference about the third cigar from the second cigar? Was it that it was a good cigar and the other ones weren't good, or was it just you had enough and you're like, I like this now?
No, it was a good cigar. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was, but it was an aging room, like T112 or T114, I think was the cigar.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, this is good. Because like now that I've tried a lot of the different cigars, there's flavor profiles. Mm-hmm. There's different grades of cigars in terms of, it's just Chevy, GMC, or Cadillac kind of a thing.
Okay.
And so
every once in a while you get a Ferrari, and those are the,
Yeah, and so it was definitely the cigar.
Okay, so you went from the Ford and you found the Cadillac on accident. You're like, this is what I want.
I went from the little beat up Pinto to okay, I can do this. This is fun. And so so now, and maybe someday if the boys are interested in it when they're old enough, I think that'll be fun for me to sit down and have a cigar with them and just hear about their life, their aspirations, their goals.
After they spend however long at Hume Lake with no contact.
We're just going to recreate my entire childhood for them. But speaking of that, Pops, like, what is some wisdom what is something you've learned maybe that you would tell your younger self, like you when you were my age, and you see pattern, like, I'm a fairly new dad. The oldest kid, Jack, is a little over 2.5 right now, and so I'm seeing patterns starting to form in him where I'm like, that looks familiar, Or is there anything that you've noticed in my life that you're like, ooh, that looks familiar?
Wow. No. You are such a better father than I was.
I don't know about that, Pops.
And you are much more patient. And you look at things before you speak. Be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. And you have taken that to heart. And when I look at how you interact with your children, you make it a point to do certain things. And I did too.
You were phenomenal.
I made a point of doing certain things. And if I was going to impart any wisdom to you, it would be to continue to do what you're doing. Always be patient. Be seriously quick to listen. And you do that. You listen before you speak. And you ask questions before you speak. So these are things that are, I don't know if they're from me or from Mom, but you are inherently a listener. And that's a good thing.
It's hard when you're doing a radio show, though.
Right?
Yeah, you got to be talking.
But I've seen you with other people, and
you're right.
Not just
I do
your
ask
children.
a lot of questions.
You listen, and you have eye contact, and people naturally gravitate towards that because when they're speaking to you, they truly feel that you're the only one in the room with you.
Yeah. But so you and Mom, I always tell people because there's the people who I had a coach one time, and he told me this because I was going through a situation with one of the agents, and this agent was having a hard time, and I just kind of kept helping him and making excuses for why he wasn't achieving certain goals or why he wasn't doing certain things that he was supposed to be doing in a professional setting. And finally, my coach just pulled me aside and said, "Hey, Johnny, I understand that you're trying to show this guy some grace and give him the benefit of the doubt, but there's two types of people in this world." So the first type had a parent, like a dad who was an alcoholic and a mom who was a druggie, and they'll never get anywhere in life because dad was alcoholic, mom was a druggie. And he said the second type of person had parents who dad was an alcoholic, mom was a druggie, but they want more, and they cannot imagine continuing that cycle because dad was an alcoholic and mom was a druggie. There's one with the victim mentality, and one more with the mentality of, hey, I have to break this cycle, I have to make a change. And so what that relates to your parenting style, you were not an alcoholic. Mom was not mom was not
disclaimer.
A druggie. Just to clarify, mom was not a druggie, but you set the bar really high.
I did.
You set the bar. I did. You set the bar really high, and so did Mama. And so that is something that I am personally striving towards. Granted, I'm not saying you were perfect, even though I was the perfect son.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
No, it's a joke. And so, but I just wanted to give you and Mom kudos on that because you guys did a phenomenal job raising me and the twins.
Yeah, don't ever in your life with your children ever settle.
What do you mean I settle?
Oh, well, that's okay. You can do that. How about this? Always strive to spur them on to do something that they've never done before.
Yep.
Whether it's sports, whether it's a class. And once they get into that, don't let them quit.
Don't let them quit. Yeah. I don't even remember that ever being an option.
There wasn't an option.
I never even thought to ask if it would be an option. It was so off the table. But let's when we come back from break, let's go over a little bit more about some of those challenges and things that you imparted and that we have now carried forward into our real estate business.
Okay.
Back after this.
Okay, man, I'm sure this has happened to you where you get so excited about something that you do it, and then afterwards you're like, oh, wait, I should have waited a little bit longer and thought about this.
Maybe I should have called my wife first.
Yes.
About getting this new truck.
That's what happened with Colin is he found a new house that he really wanted, and so he bought it, but then needed to sell his old house in Roseville first. But the problem was most houses were taking 2 to 3 months to sell. And he's like, I can't pay 2 mortgages. So he called our friend Johnny Jennings and the Tom Days real estate team, and they were able to sell his house in Roseville in 2 weeks.
Wow, that's so cool. That's why Mike and I trust Johnny and Tom with Made for More Realty, why they have so many 5-star Google reviews, why they sell more houses than anyone else in all of Sacramento. So you should too. If you're curious what kind of offers you would get on your home, just Google Johnny Jennings Made for More Realty. Again, Johnny Jennings Made for More Realty. Even if your home is not in perfect condition and you don't have the time or the money to do repairs, he can help. Again, Google Johnny Jennings Made for More Realty, because you get more with Made for More. License number 581837.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
So we're back on the show with Pops, a.k.a. John Jennings II, and we've talked about what you've observed in Valerie and my growth, because both as, husband and wife and in real estate, we've talked about what you've observed, and of course we've talked about cigars a little bit. But before we broke previously, you were talking about challenges and things like pushing your kids, me, my brother and sister, to just grow. And that is something that I've carried with me to adulthood. It's something that I really, really enjoy doing. And you've actually been a part of many of these challenges, right? So there was the one where I wouldn't necessarily call it a challenge. It's just I remember you as a kid preparing to hike for Mount Whitney, and then there was the time when we got to hike Mount Whitney together, you, me, and a buddy, and so that was a one of those moments where it's like you, as a little kid, you're like, maybe someday when I'm big I'll be able to do it, and then you achieve the goal and you're like, wow, that's a pivotal moment in my life. But you've also been there for some other ones, like the 4x4x48. That's where you run. It's a David Goggins thing. So David Goggins is a former Navy SEAL, and 4x4x48 means you run 4 miles every 4 hours around the clock for 48 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it ends up being what is that? I don't know how many miles, but a lot of miles.
A lot of miles.
And but I honestly wouldn't have been able to accomplish that. Or I would have been less likely to take on the challenge if you weren't going to be the crew support type of fellow, making sure I'm not getting run over, roadkill on the side of the road. So there was that, and then Alcatraz. That was something else I did that was prompted by my upbringing, where I swam from Alcatraz to shore. Right.
Wow.
So every year on my birthday. And then there was the 30. What was it? 35 miles. So I'm not a runner. I hate running. Not my thing. But for my birthday, I decided I wanted to run a marathon. I'd never run a marathon before, and so I was looking up this route, and then I realized, okay, wait, from Folsom Lake to Sacramento is about 35 miles on this trail, and so I was like, why don't I just do that? 26 miles.
Why run a marathon when I can run 26 miles and I can run 35?
Yeah, and so
when I don't like to run.
We'll just do that. Just a few extra miles.
He was trained early.
And so, anyways, we prompted that. But I have to say, the biggest challenge that still has ripple effects in my life was weightlifting, because in high school, I'm not the biggest guy right now. But I was a stick. I was a little twig, right? And
there were goals. You saw that wall.
Yeah, I saw the wall. They had this thing called the wall. And the wall had a 1,000-pound wall, a 1,250 wall, and a 1,500-pound wall. And there was only, I think, one guy's name, maybe two guys' names on the 1,500-pound wall at the time.
And what is that? Because I assume you weren't lifting 1,500 pounds.
No, so it was a compilation of adding up all your different lifts. So it was bench press, deadlift, clean, and squat.
Okay.
And so it would have to add up to 1,000 pounds or greater to be on the 1,000-pound wall, 1,250 or greater to be on the 1,250 wall, and then but anyways, ended up achieving that. So I started out as the weakest out of all my friends freshman year, and sophomore year we did some weightlifting together, and then some of them fell off junior year, and then all of them fell off senior year except me. And so I ended up lifting all 4 years of high school, and I vividly remember that last deadlift. That last deadlift in high school, Alejandro Bautista was spotting me and pulling up the weight, and I just felt like, wow, I accomplished something that took me 4 years. Right, 4 years is a long time for anybody, but when you're 17 years old, relationally, it's like, comparatively, it's a long time.
Yeah.
And so I just remember walking into Mr. Lucero's classroom, the English, and I was like, he's like, "How are you doing, Johnny?" I was like, "Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good." He's like, "Okay, what had just happened?" And I was like, "I just made the 1250 wall." I think that year there was maybe 3 guys that did it in our school, so it was not a common thing, but not like nobody did it. You know? And so, and he's like, "Of course you did." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "You set your sight on a goal and you work on it till it's achieved." And so I thought, and then in that moment, that became part of my identity. And so now, fast forward, that was, 2006, almost 20 years ago. That is still carrying forward. And we set a goal. We want to sell this person's house. We set a goal. We want to work with this client. We want to partner with this person. My goal is to see it through to completion.
I think all those goals you're referencing, your attitude went back way before.
I was going to ask, have I always been that way, or?
Well, it was kind of hard not to be, because I was always pushing you, and sometimes I was wondering if I was pushing you too hard. But
I never felt that. I can't speak for Paul or Ashley.
There were a couple of times that.
That's not true. I never felt that.
We didn't tell Mom about it until years later, and when we went up to Edison, and Lake Edison in California, and you jumped off the 40-foot cliff, and you were 10.
That probably wasn't the best parenting idea.
But I went down and checked the water to see if there were any rocks or anything.
It's perfectly safe just to.
And I didn't notice the snakes in the water until afterwards, but then. Unfortunately, I didn't get the shot that I wanted, and you had to do it again.
Oh, I forgot about that. You made me do it twice. It took me 45 minutes to jump off this rock, and then he's like, "Well, you got to do it again." I was like, "You got to be kidding me, Pop."
I had the lens cap on.
But everything that you have done, and I would give you a task. I have one of my favorite pictures of my son of all times is he's a little 12-year-old boy. He looks like he's the little Arnold Schwarzenegger standing on these logs. I told him that I would get him some type of electric video game.
PlayStation. The OG PlayStation.
And I told him, all you got to do to get this PlayStation is build me some steps with these 12-foot...
railroad ties.
They weren't railroad ties. They were actually telephone poles that I had cut into 12-foot sections.
So not even square.
And and he had to put in... I think it was 9 or 10 of them up the side of a berm at the back of our house. And I showed him how to do the first one. And I said, okay.
And you made it look so easy, by the way. I was like, I'll be done. I'll be done by tomorrow.
And he proceeded to just put his butt in the air and grab that pick. And he worked all day. This is a little kid. And he just did it. And there were so many things in your life that were preparing you for getting things done, not quitting. And you just don't quit. You don't. Whether it's swimming. Seriously, son, the swimming by yourself. None of his friends would swim.
In high school?
In high school. It was high school. And
that's dumb. Swimming's like the best sport. It's hot. You get to jump in the water and swim.
Right.
But then there's girls. Like, come on. This is the best.
Okay.
Come on, guys.
Yeah, but again, how smart you were. And just the solitary nature of swimming. We're not talking about, 50 yards. We're talking 10, 12, 15,000 yards a day where you're just in the water by yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're in your own mind at that point. Yeah.
And that separated you. Everything in your life prepared you for what you're doing now.
Yeah, it definitely laid the foundation, and that's something that I see so many agents struggle with in our industry, because over 90% of real estate agents leave the real estate industry in 5 years or less, like 9 out of 10. And so
They quit.
And so what we encourage agents to do is, hey, this is hard. This is normal. Just keep persevering. Do these things. You'll see some progress over time. But, and this is another Grant Cardone thing that I picked up was, don't quit when you're losing. So if you are struggling in real estate,
You try harder.
and don't wait until you get that next sale. After you get that next sale and you have some money, look up, take a deep breath, and decide, hey, is this the industry I want to be in? Or should I pivot to something else?
Yeah.
But at least wait till you get that sale. But if you quit when you're down, then all of a sudden you've just broken something.
That's going to be your life.
You've just broken something that then is going to be more likely to happen again. Maybe not in your professional life, but maybe in your personal, maybe in your fitness journey, maybe in your financial life. So don't quit when you're losing. Just get that win and then make a decision about, hey, what's the best path forward?
Right.
Thanks so much for being on the show, Pops. We're not done yet, though. Back after this.
It's called the sandwich generation when you're taking care of not only your kids, but also your parents who are aging. And that can be very emotional and stressful. For instance, Emily, she needed to sell her dad's home in Rockland in order to pay for his assisted living facility. And she was stressed out. She heard about Tom and Johnny with Made for More here on The Fish and decided to call them up. They talked. Guess what? They sold her dad's house in less than 30 days, giving Emily enough time and money to make those arrangements to help her dad.
And that's a difference of working with an expert who's selling more than just a handful of houses a year. They're doing it on a regular basis. So there are no surprises for them, and you can be completely confident that they're going to get you the best price for your house. And if you're curious what kind of offers you can get, the high end, the low end, or you want a cash offer, just Google Made for More Realty to get in contact with Johnny Jennings and the Tom Daves Real Estate Team, and they will take great care of you. And remember, you get more with Made for More. License number 581837.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
So I'm on the show today with my pops, John P. Jennings II, and you have a famous phrase. Do you know the one I'm thinking of?
Plan ahead, work ahead, stay ahead.
That's the one. Plan ahead, work ahead. Is it epitaph? Am I saying that right?
I don't want to think about that right now, son.
You got to plan ahead, Dad. You got to plan ahead.
Work ahead, stay ahead. You got this.
Yeah, but man, that is something that I always aspire to: plan ahead, work ahead, stay ahead. Because industry is changing, life changes fast. But we should get a shirt made: plan ahead, work ahead, stay ahead. So, but on the break, you had some questions about cigars.
Yeah, because you guys were saying that your dad kind of introduced you to cigars and everything else, and so I'm curious: are cigars kind of along the same lines of like wine or other things, where it's like it changes from year to year, or is like the cigar the same?
Well, they do change, but you can get a brand that it's kind of like a bottle of wine that you like, and you can purchase that wine, and you are expecting for it to be consistent every time you purchase the bottle of wine. I like port, and 10-year-old Graham is a very good, consistently good 10-year-old port.
Okay.
So same with cigars. You're going to have a brand that you go with and a style that you go with that you can feel comfortable buying, because and sticks they're not cheap anymore. I mean,
and it changes too. So like, because you're growing a crop,
yeah,
right, and so the way they're aged, the way that crop, the
rain, the
sun, how the soil, all that impacts. So like, for example, I used to really love Arturo Fuente is a brand,
okay,
and the cigar is called Opus X.
Okay,
it's like their Cadillac cigar, and it has been highly rated, and I used to love Opus X, but now, and these cigars are not cheap, and so, but now I've had just a few Opuses where I'm like, this is not worth the money being paid, and unfortunately, the consistency is, in my opinion, changed, and the quality is not there.
Yeah.
And so what we're talking about isn't something that is like mass produced. Like, yes, there are a lot of cigars made every year, but these are hand rolled. These are not machine made cigars. These are handmade cigars where there's all these different quality control points where it's like, hey, did the roller do it right? Does it have the right draw? Is there a plug in it? How's the wrapper look? Is it torn? Does it have veins? Like, there's all these different things that go into. Like, I was actually thinking about this morning. I don't smoke as many cigars as I used to, simply because I don't have the time. But I refuse to be rushed into smoking a fine handmade cigar that this cigar provided a job and provided an income and a livelihood for this family. Somebody put a lot of work and care into this, and I just refuse to just light one up and burn it up and be in a rush rather than enjoy everything that comes with the cigar.
Oh yeah, the moment. Smoking a cigar, it's always in the moment, and you look forward to that. You really do.
Yeah, and they're a time commitment. So I mean, a fast cigar, for me at least, is like 30 minutes.
Okay.
Sometimes they can last upwards of an hour, 90 minutes.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Is that just like depending on the type of tobacco and stuff that you're getting?
It's more the size. Size of the cigar. So there's so many different sizes. But the cigar, when most people think cigar, at least I did, was Churchill. So that's an actual like size of cigar.
Oh, okay.
And so if you think Winston Churchill and you see what he's smoking in the movies and stuff or in history, that's a bigger cigar. And then there's smaller ones. There's ones that are bigger than
or George
Churchill
Burns.
smoked.
I mean, seriously, those guys, George Burns and Winston Churchill, I think they went through how many, son? 12, 15 cigars a day?
I think Burns did a little, yeah. So 12 to 15, Churchill was at least 10. I've smoked 10 in one day.
But you really got to be working at it.
And it was not a pleasant experience. I would not recommend it. I just did it just because I was curious.
What it was be like to be Churchill. Are all the sizes like named after famous people?
No,
like you have Churchill size?
No. He's the only one that I know that really gets that distinction. But there's the sizes, all that is a total. And here's the thing too is the brands change, and sometimes your tastes change. So think about when you were a kid, there was probably certain foods you liked, and some of those foods you still may like, and that you didn't like. And now that you're older, there may be those foods that you still like that when you enjoyed when you were a child, but now there's some newer foods, some newer flavors. You're like, oh, I'm more open to that now. And so sometimes your flavor profile changes, and sometimes just the brands change. Like the most consistent brand, like if you want a premium cigar, and you're gonna pay a little bit more for it, and you want that consistent experience that Pops was alluding to earlier, the best one that I have found is Padron. Padron, Padron, Padron. And so Padrones are legit. I used to really enjoy Arturo Fuentes, but I lately have a lot of hit and miss with Arturo Fuentes, which bums me out because they make some great sticks. But it's kind of like real estate agents. Sometimes they're super hot, and then all of a sudden they're not.
Right.
They don't sell anything for a year.
They don't sell anything for a year. Yeah. No, it's a tough industry. That it just imagine, and because people see what's on television, and they think, hey, that's normal. And so there's a phrase, a guy by the name of Brian Gruder. Brian Gruder, I worked for him back in college in his shop, and he told me something that I have carried with me. Man, this must have been 2010, 2011. So for a long time. And he said, Johnny, he we were driving somewhere. He grabbed my shoulder. He scared me. Like made me jump a little bit. And he said it with such force.
Veer off the road.
Yeah, I was like, dude, come on, we got like a trailer. You're like, what are you trying to do to me? And he's like, Johnny, I think he'd been reading an email on his phone. And whatever it was, he's like, I'm going to share this with Johnny right now. And he told me, Johnny, believe none of what you hear and only half of what you see. And I'll tell you what, that's a very conservative standard, but if that's your baseline, it won't let you down. And so believe only half of what you see and none of what you hear.
And nothing on the internet.
And nothing on and everything on the internet.
Fact check.
So when it comes to being a real estate agent and you're seeing all this stuff on television, or they pull up in a nice car, like don't necessarily buy into the hype. Don't buy into all that, because a true real estate agent, somebody who's really making a living at this and succeeding at a high level, they're working 7 days a week. Because so if a person has a job, typically you need to be employed to buy a home.
Yeah.
And if you own a home, typically to keep the home, you have to be employed. So that means they're working during the day and they're available on nights and weekends. So that's when you can then meet with the clients typically. So nights and weekends are now taken up. But guess what? Then there's inspections. Then there's all these other tasks that have to be done during the day. And so there's no day off. Like there's no like, hey, real estate agents are unavailable on this day. It just does not exist in the industry. And so if you're on 24/7, 365 in some capacity, that is very taxing on people. And so we have a team and they help carry some of that load. But at the end of the day, that constant pressure is just not for everybody. It's really for only about 10% of the population, because I'm not making that number up. That's just how many people last. You know? So
and one thing about you and Valerie, it's like I was talking about the consistency before with the port or the cigars. You're consistent. You are consistent day after day, week after week, year after year. If you have a client, they know that they're going to get 100% from you and Valerie. They just know that.
Yeah, and that consistency, that is the main differentiator. Whether you're selling houses or you're playing basketball, like what back in the day, there was that Kobe Bryant video floating around with him. He had like a broken arm, and he's still practicing free throws.
People with you when you were growing up, if they were going to hire you to work as a student, they knew that they were going to get somebody who was going to work.
Yeah,
because you knew how to work.
But it comes down to the consistency,
right?
So I see so many people struggle because they're inconsistent,
right?
So I used to be 45, almost 50 pounds heavier than I am right now. That I gained that weight because I was consistently eating the wrong things and not exercising. It's been almost 10 years since I lost the weight, and so
you were also bigger. You were a bigger guy. You had much more muscle.
And yeah, but it was there was a lot of fluff.
The muscle was there. It was just hiding under the layer.
Yeah, it was just camouflaged a little bit. But now I've kept the weight off, and I like to joke. I ate myself skinny instead of eating a bunch of tortilla chips, and I ate riced cauliflower. Or I just stopped. Or instead of eating a bunch of chocolate, like Valerie knows, no chocolate in the house, because I cannot say no to chocolate.
Right.
And if there is chocolate in the house, she hides it from me. Like and she's doing me a favor because I can't say no. And so,
the team effort.
Yeah.
Team effort, and then consistently executing.
And even now, was it decaf coffee? Because you stopped doing caffeine, and now.
Oh, good memory. Yeah. So I'm on 2 weeks right now. 2 weeks of no caffeine.
I don't know how you're surviving.
I'm like a 5 to 6 cup of coffee kind of guy, and so yeah. But if you're looking for success in this industry, you need to be consistent. That at full stop, end of the day, you can. We talked earlier about the guy who knocked on 125,000 doors. Like that's all he did is he just did door knocking, and he was knocking down a couple $100,000 a year, knocking on doors. And it didn't happen overnight, but he was consistently doing it. And so if you're an agent and you want somebody that's going to provide that consistency, provide that accountability, provide that roadmap on how to be successful, then go ahead and reach out to us. You can reach out to me at 530-GET-MORE. That's 530-GET-MORE. Or you can text 530-GET-MORE.
So you talked about how agents can get a hold of you. What about if I'm interested in having you sell my home because you're consistent, you're on it like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way to get a hold of us is just to Google Made for More Realty, or just put in the search bar madeformorerealty.com, and we'll be able to, and then on there you'll be able to reach out to us. You can call, text, send us a message through the website, and we can get you some more information. And we have a lot of great programs. So we have like we have a program with our lender where we can actually get you an interest rate lower than the lower market rate, so up to 2% lower.
Wow, that's worth the phone call just right there. For sure.
That's worth the phone call. And if you're looking to sell, we have a Bay Area buyer marketing plan. We have a smart seller program where you can cancel at any time. There's no strings attached, whether you've just begun the process or you've been working with us for a while. We want to earn your business. That's why we do it. We don't want to lock you into a contract. We have a guaranteed offer program. We have a cash offer program. We have a buy before you sell program, because a lot of people are worried, hey, I don't want to sell my house without knowing where I'm going next. So we have a special program that helps you with that. And anyways, so if you want to learn more about those programs or just reach out to us, you can go to madeformoreliving.com. That's madeformoreliving.com. So feel free to do that. Before we end up ending the show, Pops, is there any parting words for your inaugural time on the radio station? Anything that you want to share if somebody's thinking about working with us, or that you would just want them to know?
If you want the best, go with my son.
I can ditto that for sure.
All right. We'll end it on that happy note. Well, Pops, it was an absolute joy having you. Thanks for hopping on the show too, Mike. Appreciate you guys. Yeah. See you next time.
So, Matt, over the weekend, went with my brother. He's looking to buy a new house. And so a big part of it is just going to all these random houses, looking at them. What do you like? What do you not like? And we went to a house in Orangevale. To say this house needed a little bit of help would be an understatement. And the whole time I'm looking around, I'm just thinking, these people should have just called Johnny Jennings and the Tom Daves real estate team, because they could have just given them an offer and helped them. They don't need to fix anything up. And they probably would have gotten a lot more than they're going to get.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what a lot of Fish listeners are doing. They're calling up Tom and Johnny with Made for More Realty, and they are selling their homes in record times for the most amount of money. So if you're curious, well, what would my home sell for in as-is condition? Reach out to our friends Tom and Johnny with Made for More Living. Or maybe you want a cash offer and you just want to be done. You don't want to hold open houses. They can help you out with that as well. There's a reason why they have so many 5-star Google reviews. So go Google Tom and Johnny with Made for More Living. You get more with Made for More. License number 581837.